When my brother lost his home, I offered to let him stay in my apartment. A month later, he transferred the property to his name. I wish I could say I didn't see it coming. But there's a certain kind of blindness that comes from trying to be a good brother. You want to believe people change. You want to believe blood still means something, even when the knife goes in. Alex showed up on my doorstep one wet Tuesday evening in late March, soaked through and shivering. His voice cracked when he said his landlord had kicked him out, some dispute about back rent and broken fixtures. He claimed he'd been staying with his girlfriend, Lisa, but she'd freaked out and told him to leave. He was carrying one duffel bag and a cracked iPhone. He looked like hell. Unshaven. Eyes sunken in like someone who hadn't slept a full night in a while. He smelled like damp clothes and desperation. I told him to come in. I had no reason to say no. The place was mine, technically, I'd gotten it after my divorce. My ex-wife was the one who insisted we buy, and when we split, she left it to me. Said she didn't want the maintenance. I kept it because it was the one thing I didn't lose in the settlement. That, and my name. Anyway, it was a modest two-bedroom in a quiet part of town. Not flashy. But it had a decent kitchen and a view of the street. I'd made it mine again over the last 2 years, painted the walls, fixed the floors, replaced the ugly brass light fixtures she'd loved so much. It was finally a place that felt like home. And I opened it to him because, well, he was my brother. We weren't close anymore, but we shared the same childhood. Same parents. Same empty fridge, same screaming matches in the living room. We both had the same scar from the time Dad threw the glass ashtray across the room. Mine on the chin. His above the eyebrow. There's a kind of bond in that. Or so I thought. The first week, Alex was quiet. Grateful, even. He slept on the couch, offered to help with dishes, kept to himself when I was working late. I work in IT, nothing glamorous, just back-end support for a firm that's too cheap to outsource. I liked my routines. Coffee at 6. Gym at 7. Work from 9 to 6. I kept things tidy, predictable. Alex didn't disturb that. At least, not at first. It was the third week when he started making little comments. You ever think this place is too big for just one guy? Or, you could Airbnb the second bedroom, make some decent side cash. The kind of offhand remarks that sound innocent until you hear them 5 times. And then he started ordering packages. Small things at first. A phone charger. Some earbuds. Then larger boxes. A sound system. A gaming chair. He had it all delivered to my address, his name, my home. I'll pay you back, he said. He never did. The power of attorney came up casually. It was the end of April. I was dealing with a plumbing issue. The downstairs neighbor had a leak and the building maintenance team needed access while I was at work. I couldn't get away that day, and Alex offered to stay home and handle it. I thought it was generous of him. Just need something in writing, he said. So they know I'm not some rando. Made sense. I called my lawyer and got a basic limited power of attorney drawn up. It gave Alex the ability to sign for me for certain matters related to the apartment, mail, deliveries, contractors. Nothing serious. I even limited the duration to 60 days. I read it. He signed it. I signed it. Notarized it at the UPS store. I thought I was being smart. Careful. On the 29th day, I came home from work and my key didn't fit. Thought I'd jammed it. Tried the spare. Same result. Then I saw the notice on the door. A printed slip in one of those plastic sleeves landlords use for official announcements. It wasn't from the landlord. It was from a law firm. Notice of transfer of property. I stared at it for 5 straight minutes before I could even process the words. Transfer of ownership has been completed as per documentation executed under authority granted on, date. New title holder, Alexander M. Wright. I stood there, heart pounding, while the neighbors passed me by with grocery bags and strollers and headphones in. None of them looked twice. Alex opened the door a few minutes later, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "What's going on?" I asked. "Oh, you saw the notice?" he said. "Yeah, it's all good. Everything's legal. You signed it yourself." I didn't yell. I didn't throw a punch. I didn't break down on the porch or scream for the neighbors. I just walked in, sat down at the kitchen table, and stared at my coffee maker. The one I bought 6 years ago when I got this place. The one I cleaned every Sunday. The one my ex-wife said was too industrial. Alex stood behind me, arms crossed. "Look, I get it. It's a shock. But think about it, you weren't using the extra room. You don't even have anyone over. You're just hoarding space. I've got nowhere else to go. Lisa won't take me back. Mom and Dad can't help. You got this place after the divorce, right? It's not like you earned it." I turned to look at him. "You forged the papers." He shook his head. "No, man. I had power of attorney. You gave me that. For mail. For letting the plumber in. Not to sign over the deed." He shrugged. "Lawyers saw it differently. You really should have read the fine print." I spent the next week calling lawyers. One told me it was a civil matter. Another said fraud cases involving family are notoriously hard to win. The third took my money and then stopped returning my calls. Turns out, when you sign a power of attorney, especially one that isn't rock solid with restrictions, you open the door. Just wide enough for someone like Alex to kick it in. He didn't move out. In fact, he brought Lisa back. She showed up 3 days later with her things in a garbage bag and a smug look on her face. They started treating my place, like it was theirs. Rearranged the living room. Threw out my dishes. Changed the Wi-Fi password. The kicker? He told our parents. And they congratulated him. "You always said you'd help your brother," my mother told me on the phone. "You offered to let him stay. Don't complain now." "Help doesn't mean signing over my goddamn house," I said. "You've always been so dramatic," she snapped. "You don't have a wife. You don't have kids. Why do you need it anyway? There's more. A lot more." But that was the moment I realized I was no longer just dealing with a bad brother. I was dealing with a con man. One who knew me better than I knew myself. One who'd been practicing on girlfriends, landlords, friends, for years. And I was just his latest mark. I didn't leave right away. It was still my home, at least in my mind. In the law's eyes, maybe not, but I had my clothes in the closet, my books on the shelf, my memories in every corner. Alex took over the master bedroom. Told me I could crash in the guest room for a while. Said it like he was doing me a favor. Lisa started calling it her kitchen. By the second week, I couldn't stomach being in the same room with either of them. I'd come home from work, head straight to the guest room, and shut the door. No dinner. No small talk. Just the dull hum of the television and the click of Lisa's heels on the hardwood. I started sleeping with a chair under the doorknob. Just in case. The lawyer I found next was different. He was older, half-retired, the kind who didn't smile much and kept a yellow legal pad on his desk instead of a laptop. "You're not the first guy to walk into my office with this kind of story," he said, flipping through the copy of the deed I'd brought in. "You just thought you were being helpful. Gave your brother a little power of attorney. Thought nothing of it." He set the paper down and looked at me over his glasses. "You thought he'd never stab you." I said nothing. Just stared at the floor. "Well," he sighed, "it's gonna be a hell of a fight." He explained it like this. The power of attorney I'd signed was technically limited, but the wording was vague enough that Alex could exploit it. He'd attached it to a notarized deed transfer, claiming I'd agreed to gift the apartment to him in exchange for relieving familial debt and ongoing assistance. The wording was boilerplate. Looked official. To make things worse, Alex had filed the transfer with the county registrar himself. He knew the system. Knew how to make it look clean on paper. My lawyer, his name was Morgan, told me we could file a civil claim of fraud, but the burden of proof would be on me. We'll need evidence he forged intent, Morgan said. Emails, texts, anything showing he did this behind your back. Even better if you've got him admitting it. I had none of that. All I had was a gut feeling and a broken key. I started documenting everything. Every conversation. Every smug remark. Every veiled threat. One night I left my phone recording under the table during dinner. Lisa was drunk on boxed wine, laughing about how easy it had been. He signed it, she said. I mean, maybe he didn't read it, but that's not our fault. Alex just smirked and nodded. People don't read the fine print, he said. That's the problem. I saved that clip. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was something. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. One night, after another tense silence in the hallway, I went out to a bar just to get some air. Ended up talking to a woman named Jenna. We got to talking about family, and I mentioned Alex, no names, just vague stories. She paused mid-drink and asked, your brother wouldn't happen to be tall, brown hair, sleeve tattoo on his left arm? I nodded slowly. Her eyes narrowed. I dated him, she said. Briefly. Back in 2020. She told me he'd moved in with her after a month. Said he'd lost his job, just needed a place to stay. A few weeks later, her apartment lease was mysteriously renegotiated under a different name. She had to fight to get her deposit back. Her landlord was confused. She was confused. Alex ghosted her the moment things got tense. He left me with nothing but overdue bills and a disconnected phone number, she said. I should have called the cops. I asked if she'd be willing to talk to my lawyer. She said she would. I gave her my number. That was the first one. The second was a girl named Mandy, friend of a friend. Same story, different city. Alex had crashed on her couch after a breakup, got involved in her finances, convinced her to co-sign some document. She didn't find out it was a quitclaim deed until after he skipped town. And she, too, had tried to file charges. But by then he was long gone, and the case went cold. That's when the pattern started to form. Alex was a predator. He didn't steal with force, he stole with charm, paperwork, and lies. And now he'd set his sights on family. When I confronted him with what I'd found, he didn't flinch. We were standing in the kitchen. He was making toast. Lisa was at the table painting her nails. I talked to Jenna, I said. He turned. Slowly. And Mandy, I added. You pulled this before. More than once. He chuckled, low and tired. And, he asked. What are you gonna do? Tell Mom? Dad? They already know, I said. And that part was true. I'd called my parents. Told them what I'd uncovered. That there were women out there with court records and police reports. That their son wasn't just manipulative, he was dangerous. They didn't believe me. You always had a problem with him, my dad said. You've been jealous since you were kids. My mom's response was worse. Well, maybe you promised, she said. That was the moment something in me broke. Morgan filed the fraud claim 2 weeks later. It was the start of a long, slow process, hearings, statements, deadlines. The court didn't move fast, and Alex played the part of the calm, collected brother. Showed up in a button-down shirt. Smiled. Told the judge he was just helping a struggling sibling. He submitted fake emails, doctored to look like I'd agreed to gift him the property. We submitted the recording from the dinner conversation. Jenna gave a sworn statement. Mandy, too. It helped, but it wasn't enough. Morgan pulled me aside one day and said, "He's got just enough plausible deniability. This could drag for a year." And then he asked the question I'd been dreading. "Do you want to settle?" I didn't answer him right away. That night, I came home to find Alex had moved my things out of the guest room. Dumped them in the garage. Lisa handed me a folded piece of paper. It was an eviction notice, with my name on it. "You've got 30 days, she said. "We need the space." I sat in the garage for a long time that night, cross-legged on the concrete floor, surrounded by cardboard boxes labeled in my own handwriting. Half my life, boxed and stacked beside a weed trimmer I'd never used. The eviction notice was real. Stamped. Signed. Filed. Morgan confirmed it the next morning. "They've got the title," he said. "Until we overturn it, he has the legal right to remove you." I asked him how often these kinds of cases ended in the original owner's favor. He hesitated just long enough. Rarely. The days blurred after that. I kept going to work, because what else was I going to do? HR had already noticed the change in me. I looked tired. Spoke less. Laughed even less than that. One of the interns asked if I was sick. I wanted to say yes, but there wasn't a doctor in the world who could diagnose what was eating at me. It wasn't just the loss of property. It was the loss of belief. That old, slow-burning realization that the people who raised you would let you drown if it kept the favorite child dry. I called my mother again, one last time, hoping for something. She picked up on the third ring. I told her about the eviction. About the forged documents. About the way Alex and Lisa had tossed my things into the garage like garbage. She didn't even sound surprised. "You've always been dramatic," she said. "You don't understand what it's like for him. He's got kids. A wife. A family to take care of." "I'm family," I said. "No," she said quietly. "You're just bitter." It was about then I started having the dream. In it, I was a kid again, sitting on the floor of our old living room. Alex was on the couch, holding the remote. I asked to watch something else, and he told me to shut up. I told Dad. Dad slapped me. I looked at Alex. He just smiled. When I woke up, I was sweating through the sheets on a cot I'd set up in the garage. A single bare bulb buzzed above me. No windows. No clock. Just the sound of my own breathing and the deep hum of the water heater. 30 days. Less than that now. I was being erased from my own home. Morgan tried to push the fraud case into a higher gear, but Alex's lawyer was good, probably paid for by Lisa's parents, who were old money and liked to keep their dirt buried deep. He delayed. Denied. Claimed I'd had a mental break during the pandemic and had voluntarily signed everything over to reconnect with family. I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't even find the energy. Morgan told me, "They're building a narrative. If you react emotionally, you'll just play into it." I asked him what I was supposed to do instead. Document everything. If he slips up, we'll be ready. It was a Tuesday morning when Alex finally did. I'd gone back into the main house to grab a suit for a job interview, figured I'd need better income if I was ever going to afford a lawyer long enough to outlast him. Alex was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, barefoot and humming to himself. Lisa was on the phone, pacing, speaking in hushed tones. I went straight to my room, opened the closet, and found it empty. All my clothes. Gone. I turned, walked back out, and asked, "Where's my stuff?" Lisa looked up, eyes wide. "Oh. Yeah. We donated it." "You what?" "Donated," she repeated. "We figured you weren't coming back into the house much. And there's only so much room. Thought it'd go to someone who actually needs it." I stared at her. "You're insane." She smiled like I'd complimented her. That's harassment, she said. You raise your voice again, I'll call the cops. Morgan filed an emergency motion that afternoon. It was denied. The judge cited lack of clear evidence and a pending civil dispute. I was still legally homeless in my own house. 3 days later, I got a text from Jenna, the ex-girlfriend Alex had scammed years ago. She'd dug up an old police report. Not from her case. From another. A woman named Abigail Keller. Lived 3 counties away. Filed a report against Alex in 2017. Claimed he manipulated her into signing over partial rights to a property she'd inherited from her grandmother. By the time she realized what had happened, Alex was gone and the house was listed under a shell company. Morgan found the case. The charges were dropped for insufficient evidence. Abigail had stopped responding to subpoenas. I tracked her down. She was living in Arizona now, under a new last name. She didn't want to talk, but I begged. Told her what happened. Told her he'd done it again, this time to his own brother. After a long silence, she said one thing. He never hits. Just makes you doubt your own mind. The real turning point came from an unexpected source. A detective called me. Said he'd been contacted by Jenna, she'd filed a new complaint, citing a pattern of fraud. The detective was reviewing the old case files, and mine came up as a fresh entry. I can't promise anything, he said. But if we find a connection, this could turn into a criminal investigation. I asked him what I should do in the meantime. Stay calm. Let him keep talking. Predators always overreach. The next time I saw Alex, he was in the backyard, grilling burgers. He saw me standing by the garage and lifted a spatula like a salute. Hey, he called. Want a burger? Might be the last time you get to eat one back here. I didn't answer. Just walked inside. Opened the fridge. And took the last beer. By week 4, I was running on black coffee, nicotine gum, and spite. The garage was hot during the day and freezing at night, and my back was beginning to feel the plywood through the thin foam cot. I kept a duffel bag packed and my laptop hidden in the rafters, just in case Alex decided to throw me out early. Lisa had taken to calling me the squatter. She thought it was clever. Want a shower, squatter, she'd call through the door when I used the guest bathroom. Need us to run the water for you, or can you manage with your peasant hands? I didn't rise to it. Didn't respond. Not because I was zen or anything, I was just too tired to give them the show. Morgan filed for a temporary restraining order to stop the eviction until the fraud case was resolved. It was a long shot, but the judge agreed to a hearing. We scheduled it for the following Friday. That gave me one last week in the garage. One last shot at buying time. And then the detective called again. Name's Finch, he said. I'm pulling some strings to run financials on your brother. Your ex, Jenna, she gave us everything. Statements, receipts, even texts. But we're still short on one thing, motive. Motive? I asked. He stole a house. Sure. But juries don't care about what's obvious. They care about why. So unless you can prove he did this because he needed to, we're stuck in civil territory. What are you looking for? Debt. Pressure. Something that made him desperate. I went digging. Started with the mail Lisa had left lying around. Credit card statements. Overdraft notices. Collection letters tucked into the trash like gum wrappers. I didn't touch them, not directly. Just noted names, balances, account numbers. Then I found the insurance file. It was in a manila envelope on the kitchen counter, under a pile of magazines. Inside was a copy of a home insurance policy, dated 3 weeks after Alex took possession. Coverage, full value, plus liability. There was a clause for tenant injury, for fire, for structural damage. And then, handwritten on a sticky note, basement needs photos for claim. I didn't have a basement. But I did have a crawlspace under the house, accessed through a hatch behind the water heater. I waited until they left. Alex took the kids to a park, Lisa went to a nail appointment. I popped the hatch. Pulled out my flashlight. The crawlspace was dry, mostly empty, until I reached the back corner. There, under a tarp, were 2 large plastic containers. I opened the first one. Inside were gallon-sized Ziplocs filled with white powder. Not baking flour. Not protein shake mix. I knew that smell. Fentanyl. Or close enough. The second bin held pill bottles, unlabeled, some cracked open, others sealed in shrink wrap. I backed out, slowly. Sealed the hatch. Went back to the garage and vomited in the trash can. That night, I didn't sleep. I sent Morgan a message, found something. Need to talk, offline. Then I sent a text to Detective Finch, there's your motive. Morgan showed up the next day in jeans and a plain sweatshirt. He didn't look like a lawyer. He looked like someone getting ready to jump into a foxhole. We went through the house while Alex was gone. I showed him the crawlspace. The containers. He didn't touch anything. Jesus Christ, he muttered. They're running something out of here. Think it's enough? He looked at me. It's enough to flip this whole thing on its head. Finch came the next day. Quiet. No uniform. Just a plain badge and a voice that didn't rise above a whisper. He had a camera guy with him. Took pictures. Logged items. Asked me not to touch a thing. They didn't make an arrest, not yet. But the wheels were in motion. You're lucky, Finch said as he zipped up a folder. If we'd found this in your name, you'd be the one in cuffs. I nodded. I didn't feel lucky. The hearing came on a gray Friday morning. Rain tapped the courthouse windows like someone too polite to knock. Alex wore a blazer and a smirk. Lisa didn't show. Morgan spoke first. Calm. Methodical. He presented the fraud case as still pending, but now with an added urgency. He submitted the insurance policy. The video of Lisa joking about the house. The sworn statements from Jenna and Mandy. And finally, he handed over a sealed envelope to the judge, marked Exhibit E. The judge opened it. Read the summary. His eyes flicked up. This is under active police investigation? Yes, Your Honor, Morgan said. Alex shifted in his seat. For the first time, the smirk cracked. The judge granted the stay. Eviction paused. Possession under dispute. I was still living in the garage, but now I had a foot in the door. Literally. Alex didn't say a word as we left the courthouse. But as I passed him, I felt it. That look. Like a wounded animal backed into a corner. That's when I knew it wasn't over. 3 nights later, the police came to my door. But not to arrest me. To ask questions. Because the drugs had gone missing. Gone. Cleaned out. Tubs, bags, bottles, vanished like they'd never been there. I didn't need to guess who took them. Alex had made his move. And now the house wasn't just disputed, it was a crime scene. The detective's knock came just after 3 a.m. Flashlight through the front window, 2 quiet raps on the door of the garage where I was half asleep on a cot with a box fan blowing stale air in my face. Mr. Wright? Finch's voice, calm but edged with urgency. I opened the door barefoot, blinking under the porch light. The house is empty, he said. They're gone. They'd cleared out in the night. No note. No text. No last word. Alex, Lisa, the kids, the car, all of it vanished. The furniture? Still there. The kitchen still smelled like garlic and burnt toast. But the bins and the crawlspace were gone. The insurance policy was gone. Even the spare keys I'd kept hidden under the garage stairs, gone. Finch looked around like he was waiting for something to jump out. "Whoever moved that stuff," he said, "did it fast. Like they had practice." They put me on the record the next morning, formal statement, full timeline, everything I'd seen. Morgan sat beside me through it all, scribbling notes, circling words, murmuring reminders. We both knew what this meant. Now it was criminal. The house, for now, remained sealed. Evidence tag on the door. They let me grab a few essentials, under supervision. The rest had to wait. "You're a witness now," Finch told me. "Keep your head down." The next week was a blur. I stayed at a budget motel off I-44, the kind where you don't ask about the stains and they don't ask about the cash. I spent most nights awake, one hand on my phone, the other clutching the handle of a baseball bat I bought at a pawn shop across the street. I didn't hear from Alex. Didn't expect to. But I did get a call from an unknown number one afternoon while I was eating cold noodles out of a styrofoam bowl. I answered. "You happy now?" His voice. Tight. Ragged. Full of venom. "Where are you?" "Doesn't matter." "You're in trouble, Alex." A pause. Then a dry laugh. "I've been in trouble." "You think this changes anything? You brought this on yourself." "I brought it on you, you mean? You should have just let it go. Given me the house. Mom and Dad would've." I hung up. Didn't say another word. Some fires don't deserve water. 2 days later, Morgan called. "They're filing charges," he said. "Possession with intent. Fraud. Possibly endangering a minor, since drugs were found in a home with children." "Who's pressing it?" "DA's office. And we got something else." "What?" "A lien. On the house. Filed 2 days before he disappeared." My stomach turned. "What kind of lien?" "Private loan. Shady lender. Looks like Alex used the property as collateral for a cash advance." "Is that even legal? If he had the title?" "Yeah. The paper trail's murky, but legit enough to muddy things." "So now the house is tied up with a loan I never agreed to?" "Exactly." I went quiet. "Look," Morgan said, "this isn't over. We're going to challenge the deed. We've got evidence. Police reports. Witnesses. But you need to prepare for this. When this ends, that house might be firewood." A week later, I was allowed back in. The cops were done. The evidence was logged. The case was active. I walked through the rooms like I was stepping into someone else's life. The couch I'd bought with my first real paycheck was stained with God knows what. My bookshelf was half empty. My bedroom, once quiet and mine, now smelled of cheap perfume and sweat. I sat on the edge of the bed. The walls felt closer. The air, thinner. It wasn't my home anymore. Not really. Finch called that night. "We picked up Lisa," he said. "Where?" "Truck stop near Tulsa." "Alone?" "Kids weren't with her." "What about Alex?" "Still out there." "Did she talk?" "She said it was all your fault. That you drove her husband to desperation. That he was just trying to survive." I didn't reply. "She also said something else," Finch added. "What?" "That if she goes down, she's taking him with her." I looked at the framed photo still sitting on my dresser. Me and Alex, age 9 and 6, sitting on the hood of Dad's old station wagon. Back before lies, before lawyers, before signatures and power of attorney. Back when brothers were just boys. Back when I still believed we were on the same side. They found Alex 3 states over. An old fishing town with more pawn shops than gas stations, tucked between the hills and the Gulf. He was sleeping in a borrowed trailer behind a closed-down tire shop. A neighbor reported a strung-out white guy screaming at the sky and digging through dumpsters. The arrest was quiet. No headlines. No handcuffs on the news moment. Just a plainclothes deputy, a worn warrant, and the end of the road. Finch called me the next day. "He's in custody," he said. "But there's a complication." "Of course there is," I muttered. "He's not talking." "What does that mean for me?" "It means the house is still tied up. Until we get a full confession or a court ruling, you're in limbo." "What about Lisa?" "She's flipping." "On him?" "Hard. Told us everything. Said he forged your signature. Said he knew exactly what he was doing. Even bragged about it." "And the drugs?" "She claims ignorance. We're skeptical." Morgan filed the final fraud petition with the county court. This time, the pieces lined up. Witnesses. The confession. The forged documents. But just as we thought it might clear, the lien came back to bite. Turns out Alex hadn't borrowed $5,000 or even 10. He'd taken out $48,000 against the property through a shadow lender registered out of Nevada. The name on the lien? Kodiak Holdings LLC. Morgan pulled their file. No phone number. No office. Just a P.O. box and a law firm that handled collections. "They're vultures," Morgan said. "And they don't care that it's stolen. As far as they're concerned, they own a piece of your house now." I stared at the letter they sent me, slick, white paper with words that bled. Payable upon settlement or possession. Interest accrues weekly. Liens enforceable by judicial foreclosure. Morgan ran the math. If I lost, I'd owe more than $80,000 by year's end. Even if I won, I'd have to fight Kodiak next. My parents finally called. First time in 6 weeks. My father's voice was thin, almost tired. "We heard about Alex," he said. "Your mother's upset. Why are you calling?" "We just want to know, do you really have to press charges?" There was a long silence between us. I imagined him sitting at the kitchen table, same one we grew up around. Same chipped mug. Same wall clock ticking down what little grace he had left. "Yes," I said. "You know he has a family. Kids. Those kids have a liar for a father. And enablers for grandparents. You've always been vindictive," he snapped. "And you've always chosen the wrong son." I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. I moved back into the house in early July. Morgan said it wasn't technically legal possession, but no one was fighting it. The crawlspace was still empty. The air still heavy. I slept in the living room, lights on, baseball bat beside me. At night, I'd sit on the front porch with a bottle of water and watch the street. Every car that slowed made my pulse kick. Every shadow looked like Alex. I was waiting for the knock. The apology. The screaming. The punch. But it never came. One night, I heard a voice outside. I stepped onto the porch. There, standing just outside the gate, was Alex's oldest kid, Michael. Barely 10. Backpack slung over his shoulder. "Mom said I should come see you," he said. "Where's she?" "In the car." "She's mad." "What do you want, kid?" He reached into his bag and pulled out a manila envelope. Handed it to me like a letter bomb. Inside were drawings. Crayon sketches of a house. A man. A truck. A dog. Stick figures, 4 of them. One crossed out. Then, a note in block letters. "I miss when you were my uncle." I folded it shut and looked up. Lisa was gone. Michael was still standing there, blinking. She said I could stay if I wanted. I crouched down. "Listen to me, Michael. I'm not your uncle anymore." He looked confused. Hurt. "That's what happens when people lie and steal," I said. "They lose good things. Remember that." Then I pointed down the street. Go home. He turned. Walked away slow, like he didn't understand. Maybe he didn't. Morgan asked if I wanted to sue Alex personally. I told him no. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about survival. The case will drag on for months. Maybe years. Kodiak is still circling. The courts are slow. But the house is quiet now. Mine again, for now. I don't trust it. I sleep lightly. I lock every door. I keep a second phone hidden in the kitchen drawer. But I'm still here. Still standing. Still waiting. Because some stories don't end with justice. Some end with a man sitting on his porch, alone, watching the street, hoping the past never finds its way home again. It's a strange thing, getting your house back. You expect to feel triumphant. Victorious. But all I felt was tired. There was no music. No celebration. No champagne corks popping in the kitchen. Just me, barefoot, standing in the living room with my hand on the wall like I needed to make sure it was real. Alex was gone. Lisa had vanished too, moved in with her mother in Kansas, from what Finch told me. The kids, I don't know. Probably in school. Probably pretending none of it happened. And I was standing in the skeleton of a home, surrounded by echoes. The day after I moved back in, I tore out the carpets. Not because they needed replacing, though they did. I just couldn't stand the idea of walking over memories. Their stains. Their smell. I stripped the bedroom bare. Took down every curtain. Smashed a few dishes just for the sound. Bought a new mattress and left the old one by the curb. That night, someone stole it. Good. Let them have the ghosts. Morgan kept me updated. The lien case was pending. Kodiak hadn't backed off. They were threatening foreclosure, demanding repayment of a debt I never took. Morgan said, "They're trying to wait you out. Make it expensive. Bleed you until you fold." I told him I didn't have much to bleed. He told me to get a roommate. Rent out a room. Get something coming in. I said no. This place? This fight? It was mine. And I wasn't sharing it again. I saw my mother once more, at the grocery store. She was standing near the dairy aisle, squinting at a label, acting like nothing had happened. She saw me. Her face froze. I stood there, cart half full, watching her try to decide whether to walk over or run. She chose neither. Just gave me a polite nod and wheeled her cart the other way. Didn't say a word. Didn't need to. That silence said everything. The detective called again. Alex had taken a plea deal. 5 years. Maybe 3 with good behavior. Fraud. Forgery. Attempted possession with intent. Lisa had testified. So had the ex-girlfriends. But me? I didn't go. I didn't want to see him in a jumpsuit, or hear him say my name. That part of the story was finished. Or so I thought. One night, a plain envelope showed up on my doorstep. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a photo. Me, standing on the porch, coffee in hand, from across the street. And a note. You sleep too heavy. No signature. I reported it to Finch. He came by in person. Took the photo. Logged it. Asked if I'd seen anyone hanging around. I said no. He looked tired too. Could be nothing, he said. Could be someone trying to rattle you. Could be Alex's friends. Could be Lisa. Could be anyone, I said. He didn't disagree. I installed cameras the next day. 4 of them, 1 for each corner. Put up signs. Added motion lights. Started keeping the bat beside the door again. People talk about peace like it's a destination. They don't mention how fragile it is. How thin. Like glass stretched too far. I still don't sleep right. Wake up at 2 a.m. for no reason. Check the cameras. Stare at the front window. Sometimes just walk the hallway, listening for a sound that never comes. And every morning, I drink my coffee on the porch. Just like I did before. Because no matter what they took, I still have that. That ritual. That stillness. Something like silence. It was late October when the letter came. Handwritten. Mailed from a prison in Louisiana. I stared at the envelope for a full 5 minutes before opening it. Inside, 4 pages of cramped handwriting and the same old voice behind every word. Apologizing without really apologizing. Admitting just enough to seem human, but never quite enough to be honest. I only did what I had to do, he wrote. I was drowning, man. I thought you'd understand. I thought we were still family. Family. Funny word. I didn't write back. Didn't burn the letter either. Just shoved it in the drawer where I keep warranties and old receipts and things I hope I'll forget. The truth is, I didn't need to read what came next. I knew how it ended. Knew how Alex would twist it into a story where he was the one who lost everything. Guys like him don't understand the weight of silence. The next week, Lisa called. A different number this time. I almost didn't pick up. But curiosity is a hell of a thing. Don't hang up, she said quickly. It's about the lien. I stayed on the line. Kodiak's not going to back off. They'll come after you for the full amount. I know. They don't care that the loan was forged. They'll drag you through every court they can. Their lawyer used to work collections for the cartel. What do you want, Lisa? A pause. I can help you fight them. I still have the original loan documents. With Alex's prints all over them. I can testify that you never agreed to anything. Why help me now? Because I want custody of my kids, she said flatly. And I need you to write a letter saying I cooperated. That I'm not dangerous. I laughed. Couldn't help it. You stole my home. Screamed in my face. Mocked me while you packed my life into garbage bags. I did, she said. No argument. But I can undo some of the damage. Not all of it. No, she agreed. But enough. I met her in a public park. Broad daylight. Cameras around. Nothing she could twist or claim. She handed over a thick manila envelope. Inside, copies of the loan application, emails between her and Alex, texts where he bragged about using my name to secure the house. She looked older. Tired. Like the last few months had peeled something off her. Her eyes were sharper, though. Quieter. I don't want anything else from you, she said. Good, I said. Because there's nothing left. Morgan filed an amended fraud petition with the new evidence. The judge agreed to a hearing. Kodiak backed off, temporarily. Their lawyer called Morgan 3 days later, full of oily charm and veiled threats. We just want to make this go away, he said. So do we, Morgan replied. But not on your terms. I drove out to the prison in Louisiana 1 week later. Didn't tell Morgan. Didn't tell Finch. Didn't even tell myself why until I was halfway there. They brought him out in chains. Sat him down across from me behind a thick pane of scratched glass. Didn't think you'd come, he said. Neither did I. He looked thinner. Eyes sunken. Hair gone at the sides. I got your letter, I said. He nodded. Waited. I'm not here to forgive you, I said. I didn't ask. Yes, you did. Every word of that letter screamed it. He shifted in his seat. Why, Alex? I asked. Why me? He looked at me then, and for a split second I saw it, the kid I used to protect. The boy who slept in the bunk below mine, who used to ask if the monsters were real. Because you had something I didn't, he said quietly. Peace. Control. That look in your eyes like nothing could touch you. So you took my house. I wanted to matter, he said. To someone. Anyone. And you made me feel like a ghost. Because you were one, I said. Long before this. You just didn't know it. We sat there a long moment. No more words. Just two men looking through a pane of glass, each seeing what could have been. Then I stood up. Turned to go. He tapped on the glass. I'm still your brother, he said. I didn't look back. The house felt different when I got back from Louisiana. Same walls. Same floor. Same creaky hinge on the hall closet. But it didn't hum the way it used to. There's a silence that comes after betrayal, a kind that doesn't go away just because the yelling stops. I unpacked slowly, put my things back in drawers, one by one. Not because I believed I was safe now, but because pretending to move forward was better than admitting I hadn't. Morgan called 2 days later. We got it, he said. Judge ruled in your favor. The title's back in your name. I didn't say anything. I thought you'd be happier, he said. I'm tired. He paused. Yeah, he said. I get that. The Kodiak lien was a different beast. They dragged their heels, appealed the ruling, stalled every motion they could. Their lawyer sent me a letter with legalese wrapped around a threat, settle now, or we bury you in court fees. Morgan told me to wait. They're bluffing, he said. Trying to rattle you. You outlast them, they'll cut their losses. I asked how long that'd take. He sighed. A while. So I waited. Painted the walls in the meantime. Replaced the door lock. Didn't feel like victories. Just maintenance. I saw Michael again. This time at a gas station near the edge of town. He was with his grandmother, Lisa's mom. He saw me before she did, and waved like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't stood on a porch months ago with my world on fire between us. I didn't wave back. Just nodded once. He looked confused. Then sad. Then gone, as the car pulled away. Some bridges don't burn. They just sink. A week later, a certified envelope arrived. Kodiak dropped the lien. No explanation. No apology. Just a notice signed by some assistant in a firm I'd never heard of. Morgan called that night. Told you they'd fold. Yeah, I said. You were right. But I didn't feel relief. Just stillness. The kind that settles in your bones. I kept living. Didn't rebuild. Didn't renovate. Just existed. Work. Sleep. Breathe. I started jogging again, same loop as before, around the park, down the main street, past the old library. My legs remembered the rhythm even if my heart didn't. Neighbors started waving again. One asked if I'd consider selling. I said no. This was still mine. Even if it cost everything to keep it. That night, I sat on the back steps with a beer in hand. Looked up at the sky. Dark. Still. Full of stars. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like someone was about to show up and take something from me. I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. And that? That was almost peace. The seasons changed. Leaves turned, wind picked up, and the old heater kicked back on like it always had, with a loud clang and a puff of dust through the vents. I didn't mind. That sound used to annoy me. Now it was familiar. Some things, once they come back, you learn to keep close. The house was legally mine again. No liens. No squatter. No forged names on deeds. Just my name, inked where it always should have been. But paper doesn't undo damage. There are scuffs in the hardwood that weren't there before. A dent in the bedroom door from something I never saw. The closet still smells faintly of cheap cologne, no matter how many times I air it out. But I let it be. Not everything needs fixing. Some scars you just live with. I haven't spoken to my parents since the day in the store. Morgan says it's for the best. I stopped trying to explain that I'm not avoiding them, I'm just done negotiating with people who think love is conditional. They call sometimes. I don't pick up. I listen to the voicemails, sure. It's mostly silence, sometimes a cough, once or twice a quiet, call me. But I don't. Because if you have to ask why I stayed away, you already know. Alex comes up for parole in a few years. Maybe he'll get out early. Maybe he won't. I think about what I'd do if he showed up again, on my porch, hat in hand, same old grin. I'd shut the door. Not out of spite. Out of survival. I started seeing someone. It's not serious. Coffee dates. Walks through the neighborhood. She asks questions, I answer most of them. The rest I keep tucked away. She asked once if I was close with my family. I said, used to be. That's all I said. She didn't press. That's how I knew she was worth keeping around. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, convinced someone's in the house. I'll sit up, heart pounding, listening to the stillness. But there's nothing. Just the hum of the fridge. The creak of old wood. The beat of my own breathing. And the knowledge that I made it out. Not clean. Not whole. But out. I won't pretend there's a lesson in any of this. You help someone because it's the right thing to do. But sometimes the people you help see your kindness as a weakness. And when they do, they take. And take. Until there's nothing left but a man on a porch, holding a cold cup of coffee, staring into a quiet street, and reminding himself that he's still here. Still here.